What's up everybody? In this video I wanted to go over Chargepoint stock or Chpt, but first I wanted to bring a couple things up because we're having a pretty interesting day here. And real quick, I wanted to touch on cleanspark. We're having another up day, maybe we're having a little bit of a squeeze. The RSI is becoming quite overbought, so I think we're going to pull back pretty soon. But despite that, it's very nice to see that cleanspark is now up over $5 as of this upload. It is pushing higher and higher. Now one thing for cleanspark that I'm specifically looking at is, despite a little pullback, as long as we don't drop really hard, we are going to see a golden cross here on cleanspark. We're going to see the 50 MA cross over the 200 MA for the first time in a very long time, and that is one thing I'm looking for. And the moving averages are lagging indicators. As long as we don't drop really hard, we are going to see that golden cross, and this will likely bring more buying momentum. So I do think over the short term, despite pulling back a little bit, maybe testing some levels before we get our next leg up, I do think any pullbacks on cleanspark are still a great time to buy. And looking at Bitcoin, we're back in the 30,000 area. We did retest this kind of support line on this wedge pattern, and I do think it's setting up for an event coming up, and that is the Fed meeting. The Fed meeting is only a little over a week away, starting on the 2nd to the 3rd of May, and I do expect a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of fear coming up to that date. But depending on what the Fed says, I think we are set to rally after that. As we know, recent data has shown that inflation is coming down, and we may only be looking at one more rate hike, but it'll definitely be very important to tune in and see what the Fed says coming up in the beginning of May. I do expect inflation to continue down, and it's been said before that as long as the interest rates are higher than inflation, inflation should keep coming down. And with the current interest rates right around 5% and inflation in the 4s, we're very likely to see inflation continue down, and the Fed may be able to stop raising rates. Likely won't pivot for a while, but can at least stop raising rates. But I do expect we are looking at potentially one more rate hike, and that could be it. And I do think the market is already kind of pricing this in, already anticipating that we are about to start running very soon. But let me know what you guys think about the next Fed meeting. Are we going to see one more rate hike? Are we going to see more than one more rate hike? Are we set to see the Fed pivot and start lowering rates in a couple of months here? Let me know what you think down below, and let's look at Chargepoint real quick. I want to go over a couple things here. So first off, looking at the chart, we are right around that May 11 low. This is a level that's been maintained ever since May. So we're looking at about a year now. And right around the middle of April, we did start bouncing here. And one thing I'm watching for is a break of this descending wedge pattern. Typically, you do see a breakout to the upside on a descending wedge. And earlier I showed you Bitcoin with an ascending wedge. I do think that's going to potentially break, and we're going to test our 50 MA or potentially some EMAs. But looking at Chargepoint from a price standpoint, I think this is a great time to get in. Although on the charts, we are still facing a declining 50 and 200 MA, and we could of course see some more pain here. And one thing I wanted to mention is, for the first time, we are going to see a decrease in revenue quarter over quarter. However, year over year, we are still seeing increasing revenue, but that is a potential headwind for Chargepoint as we face earnings coming up in the end of May. And it could be one of the last greatest buying opportunities for Chargepoint if we get a little pessimism, if we get a break of the May 11 lows, but time will tell. And I'll also leave this article down below for you, and it goes over how Chargepoint's price to sales is about 6.5 times, and they're comparing the electrical industry here, so this isn't necessarily just comparing chargers, this is the whole electrical industry, but the electrical industry in the US has a price to sales below 1.8 times. And they kind of go over how this company potentially deserves a higher price to sales based on their revenue growth. And analysts covering the company expect in the future revenue should grow by 47% each year over the next 3 years, with the industry only predicted to deliver about 33% per year. So they are outpacing at least the electrical industry that this article is comparing Chargepoint at. And investors are willing to pay more considering Chargepoint's increasing revenue. But I'll leave that down below for you. And I do think that next earnings could be a great buying opportunity for Chargepoint. And overall, as the rest of the year ticks on, we are going to continue to see increasing revenue. That's just my expectation. But it is quite interesting that for the first time since I've been watching this stock, they are actually expecting a revenue decline quarter over quarter. However, looking at what they've done over time, it was only, a year and a half, 2 years ago that they're pulling in right around 40-50 million per quarter. Now they're expecting right around 150 million. And a year from now, they could be pulling in somewhere around 200-300 million. And then soon after comes profitability. But let me know what you guys think about Chargepoint. For me, this is a long-term stock, and I do think it has some great potential over the coming years. But let me know what you're looking out for in the market. Thanks as always, guys, and I'll see you later.